On today's Success and Excuses, we have Cameron. Cameron, welcome to Success and Excuses podcast.
Thank you very much, sir. It's great to be here. Great to be here.
Looking forward to the chat today. Listen, before we get kicked off, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure.
Who is Cameron?
Well, I'm Cameron Young. I'm currently a partner with Business Partnership. We're one of the UK's largest business brokers. We've been going for over 45 years now. We've got 11 offices throughout the UK, and I'm one of the Scottish partners up here. But before I got involved in business brokerage, I actually was in e-commerce. I had a third generation family business that we morphed into a e-commerce company and scaled and grew it quite aggressively, and we became one of the market leaders and exited out that around 5 years ago now. So yeah.
Cool. So not only are you helping other businesses, you've been there, done it and bought the t-shirts, so you know the pains.
Yes.
You know
exactly.
the pains. And we'll go to there. So let's go back to the start.
Yeah.
So young Cameron left school. Tell me the story.
Oh, young Cameron. Well, I absolutely hated school. I wasn't academic. I think I was, if I speak honestly with myself, I know I was switched on, but I was too busy at school wanting to do other things. I was playing in a band, and I was. You
were more creative.
Yeah, let's call it. Let's say that. When I was looking to leave school, I didn't have any results that could be used for anything that I wanted to go off and do in that side, and I didn't really know what I wanted to go and do from that side as well. And at that point, the family business was Words and Wishes, which was a stationery shop, and it was wedding stationery and stuff. It was based in Hamilton, and it was just starting to morph into more of an e-commerce element. So what happened was we were selling cake toppers that we sold in the store. My dad started selling them on eBay, and people were buying them, and thought there's actually something here. And it was at the same time as the Great British Bake Off was starting off.
Yeah.
So we decided, and this is while I was still at school, we decided to make our own website, and we called it Cake Stuff. And I've probably said this before to you, but there's this Wayback Machine, and you go back, or you put in the URL, and you can see the screenshot of websites.
That's right, you can.
And the whole
history.
Exactly, and it's brilliant. It's great seeing things like Amazon, what it first looked like and stuff like that. It's brilliant. Right. But when you look at our first website, I'm like, how the hell did anyone trust putting their credit card details into that? but they did.
By the way, see on that note, see that website you're talking about, I actually had to use that to let one of my employees go, because it turned so that what they did, without getting into details, obviously, because I can't mention names. We had hired an employee, but when we hire people, it's like you work for the power within. I'm paying your salary, you work for the power within, right? You don't have side businesses, and if you do, then we can approve it. So anyway, this guy started selling business coaching,
right?
And I'm like, but I'm a business coaching company. That's a direct. But I was doing that before I joined you. So we even used that, and I went back, and there was not one mention in all his website for the last 2 or 3 years of business. I says, the only time you started mentioning business coaching when I hired you as a business coach.
I've never thought to use it forentically and have a look back.
The only time you mentioned business coaching is after I hired you.
That's a good point.
As a business coach.
It's a great tool to use that for as well. I never thought about using it that way. So we, at that point, we created our own website, and the business started to grow on that side. And just at the point that I was leaving school, we started to see it less as a side hustle onto what Words and Wishes was, and actually saw, no, this is where the growth is. And this is following, the 2008 recession. So the wedding stationery business was, a lot of people were going back home. It was very DIY, they were cost cutting, so they weren't spending stuff on sort of, if you regard it as a luxury item like that.
Well, it is a luxury item.
It is.
I mean, you go to a wedding shop and get a wedding cake made.
Exactly.
It'd make you cry. I remember mine.
You're right. And I worked with many of the bakers that made them. So into Cake Stuff, and we decided, no, we'll do a nice rebrand. We'll put investment into getting a proper website done rather than our job. And we moved premises as well. Moved up to Lesmahago, which is where my family lives, and it started in it actually started in one council unit rented up there, And as we got more stock, we then rented 2, and then we then rented the 3, and there was 5 in the unit, and we ended up renting all 5.
And how long a period was that over?
That was over probably 2 years of that.
Wow.
Growth, that growth of that side. I mean, before with the eBay days, that was a slow growth while Words and Wishes was there, but it was at that time we decided...
The online stuff started to kick in.
Exactly.
You had to have product to get the door.
Exactly. We had to have that range of products. You know, if we were wanting to show us as a proper retailer, we had to have that expansive range. And at the same time, Words and Wishes was taken off by my auntie, and she dealt with that, and we were just fully in on cake stuff now. But we had these council units, and I remember in winter us having to go out one unit in the snow and pick orders out the thing. So it wasn't fit for purpose, but it did. You know, it was there. You know, and we then got an opportunity to. There was a warehouse going in Les Mahago. And I remember at that time.
And you were in the business, Ben. You were
I was in the business then. That was when, you know, we really wanted to go heavy with, right, we're gonna go and do this. And, you know, there was a lot of my parents, for them, pivoting away from what they did before, and, you know, there was a lot of education side of things in terms of learning e-commerce and digital marketing and everything from that side. And that was sort of, you know, where I came in to help with the technical side and understand that side. And so we moved into a big warehouse, and we thought we're never gonna fill this. And within a year, it was full.
Wow.
And from then, you know, it was, you know, really understanding the market. You know, we were still regarded as the underdogs. You know, it was relatively new, but what we were, the vision, what we were pushing for was helping trade customers. First of all, I think there was a big understanding for us of, I think this stemmed back from the wedding days, being involved in the wedding industry, of wedding cake makers and professional cake makers. And, you know, my dad certainly had an understanding of some of the products that were there from, you know, speaking with them in previous years, but we got into new product development. We were looking at analysis of what customers were buying, what can we take of that and make our own and rebrand and actually put better products out. We came up, especially with this one particular product called Couture, and within 2 years, it became not only our bestseller, but other retailers' bestsellers as well. Okay. We started to wholesale that out, and it sort of, we couldn't believe how, because it was a very tight family unit running this business. You know, we had a great team of picker packers as well that supported the business, that had been with us since the Words and Wishes days as well. And we then, you know, the scale of how quickly we grew, I think it surprised us all a lot, but it took a lot of work.
There's no doubt. A lot of work.
Exactly. And I think because of how fast it went, and a lot of
we talked about before, it's the 18, 20 years that nobody sees when you're still in there at 10, 11 at night.
You're right. Absolutely. And I mean, people don't see that. No. And people see, you know, I think especially in e-commerce, especially when I'm speaking to people now, that they think, oh, I'll set up an e-commerce shop, I'll get some drop fulfillment, and it'll be fine, it'll make me loads of money on this. That's not how it works. And if you come to me and say, I'm thinking about doing drop fulfillment and buying stuff off Alibaba and stuff like that, we're saying, that's the wrong decision to make. I think it's unethical more than anything else, because you're just trying to make a quick buck off of not much effort.
I get stung with it, right? And I'm going to say this on camera. I bought car mats, right? So I bought a new Merc, and I wanted to keep it really nice, right? And it's all black leather and red stitching, and it's beautiful, right? It's beautiful. So I thought, I seen these car mats on, I think it was online. I don't know if it was one of the social media platforms or online. Beautiful black leather, all stitched. Beautiful.
I know the ones you mean.
Fit right into your car. Beautiful they looked. So I went onto the website and I seen the videos, and I thought, I can take my mats out, I can keep them as good. I'll put these in, it'll save everything, it'll keep it pristine if I ever sell it in a couple of years' time. And these things arrived, and guess what they were? First of all, it says proud to be British. Yes, they are a British company. They have a registered office, a registered virtual office. Right. So yes, they are a British company, but they don't have any employees. They don't have any employees in the UK, like at all. Like it's registered to which got a virtual address. But the person that owns the company doesn't live in the UK. So that's the first thing. And it wasn't until I bought them and they came, and I'm like, this isn't right. You should do with a British company. And I said, why is it taking so long for me to get these if you're a British company? Oh, they're made in Italy. So I went on their website, sure enough, made in Italy. So got some back, and I'm looking, no tags on them or anything about made in Italy. So I sent him an email and I says, can you provide proof as per my consumer rights, proof that they were made in Italy? And they keep coming back, we source stuff in Italy. And where are they made in Italy? Where's the factory? Where are they made in Italy? And it's exactly that. Do you know what they're doing? They're just drop shitting. Yep. So they're taking orders for the UK, sending it to China, getting cheap, because they were cheap plastic, right? They look good. Yeah. They look good, but they're not going to last long. I mean, I'll be ripping them out in 6 months' time. Exactly. And let her carry on.
No, I know.
And that's exactly that. And it's so disappointing because you're like you've got a really nice car and right now they look great and you're just thinking, like, I would have happily paid an extra.
No, I know, and that's it. And I think
get the quality that I thought I was getting.
The worst bit of it I'm seeing, and we'll get into this later with other courses that are like this as well, but there's so many young guys being swept up by these daft courses of people that don't know what they're talking about, right? And these people are making these courses, are making it all attractive, like start a Shopify
but they make the money
website.
For the course, they don't make it for what
they've never made a dime in actually doing what they're preaching. Yeah. And so you see all these pop up, and I think it's just because I've been in the e-commerce industry for so long, you can spot them straight away. You know which ones are, especially the ones that are still using the same product image as the Alibaba product image. But
this company, didn't they? They've obviously spent money on their website.
And you get that as well.
And it looks really good. By the way, the website looks really good. So you're instant, okay.
Yeah.
And then they've got videos of them being made and you're going, this is brand new. No, I don't doubt that that's a real video, but it's not a real video of the cars mats I've got.
Exactly.
It's maybe a real video of car mats.
And that's the thing. I mean, in a wider scale, I've got nothing against it if you've got the passion behind the product and you believe in it from that side and what you're putting there. But a lot of the time, that's not the case. But, there are people that are actually stick to one lane. I know a lot about this product. I think this would be good bringing in here, but still the end goal of how the consumer should be treated, like it should be next day delivery. It should be, that side. It shouldn't be expected for someone to pay. They have to wait 14 days, you get in touch, not realising the customer service process, not really realising consumer rights, about returns and everything else. And they just think, it's going to run on its side, and it doesn't. No. If you really want, and that, with cake stuff, we obviously saw that firsthand. Is e-commerce never sleeps, and you have to be on it all the time. You have to be looking at the new strategies that are in place. You have to be looking at what your competitors are offering in terms of product wise, what the obviously pricing.
The best-selling stuff is in the market.
Exactly, we had 20,000 products by the time we exited, and keeping on top of what our competitors pricing out on all those products. That's takes a lot of time to be able to sure that you're the most competitive while still making your margins at the same time.
What was the biggest lessons then? See, you young guy, because you were really young getting into business. What was the lessons when you were like, oh God, I didn't know this what business was all about. What was the lessons? Because a lot of people come into business. Now, I'm asking this for a reason. A lot of people come into business because they're really good at something, right? Yeah. And business generally doesn't last or it fails. So what's the lessons that you learned? And I'm going to, a reason that I'm asking this is I'm going to follow up question.
Absolutely. I think when I first came into the business straight after school I didn't know what I was good at, right? And there was a bit of, and when I was in, it was very much, we still had the old website. It was picking and packing. It was getting those orders out the door, keeping our reputation up. Getting those positive reviews back. But I felt that I needed to bring something more to the business if I was going to take it there. So I actually did end up going to uni after that. Okay. I went to UWS in Hamilton, and one of the main reasons I chose that university because it was the closest to the warehouse. So on a busy day,
just in the corner
exactly. And it was only when I went there that I didn't become academic, but I started to relate stuff directly to the business.
Exactly the same as me. Yeah. Exactly the same.
And it was, being able to see, when I was learning it in lectures and stuff like that, and actually seeing theory in action of...
And that's where the interest, because when you're this is what people like us see, when you're interested in something, all of a sudden learning becomes easy. Exactly. Doesn't it?
Exactly.
It's amazing that.
When you've got something to relate something
Absolutely,
to, and you've got a passion behind how can I utilise that? What can I get out of what I'm learning here just now? And there was some days, especially in sort of the digital marketing sides of the course, I'm going to go back and do that right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and see what that does.
That's when you know you're learning.
Exactly. And I think if I didn't have that, the business, I would have been rubbish at university.
Actually, you just went through the motions.
Exactly. I actually ended up winning the court medal, which was given to the top student in the year.
Wow.
And I tell you, my friends and family were like, how the hell did you win that?
But go back to what you said, though, it's because I'll bet you, right, because this is what I do, right? See, when you were sitting listening to the lecture, I bet you could picture how this would improve the business. You could literally picture how you could implement that as you're sitting listening. That's where the magic happens, isn't it? When you can literally picture it.
Exactly. And I've said this to you before, is with what the Power Within's doing as well, is, you know, when you hear people talking about it, they're not just relating it to how they can use it in the professional life, but they can see from the home life as well of those elements that they're learning from your courses and going, oh, this is actually not just making me a better person in the workplace, this is making me a better person, full stop.
Better husband, best
and because they can relate to the scenarios that you're putting out there, and I was like, that's how people learn, that's how people remember. It's being able to have that relation, and here's the theory, and here's what we can action it against. And I think if you don't have that second connect, it's so hard to educate people when you can't relate with them, you can't tell that story from that aspect.
And unfortunately, without having to go to a lot of other training courses, and this is the feedback that I get, is most of the leadership programs are kind of theory based, great stories, they have a great time, they get a nice certificate, I am a leader, they go back to work on Monday, and nothing's changed, man. Nothing's changed. And that's what we really do different. We change this, we change that part. So I want to go to that. So I want to stick to that in your story, right? So young Cameron went out there, you were learning, and that really added value to the business. What happened next? How did you get to the point now? And then, cause I'll tell you why I'm asking, because I also want to get to the point of why you help other businesses. What's the challenges? Absolutely. What's the things that people need to look out for? I'll get to that next though.
Absolutely.
So the first question is those lessons that you're learning.
I mean, with, you know, it was still at the sort of forefront of, or it was the early stages of everyone understanding digital marketing, social media, paid ads, everything from that side. So we grew organically to a really high point just through understanding SEO and organic traffic from that side. So our marketing costs were next to nothing except from exhibitions and some campaigns and stuff. But then sort of the next stage was implementing some digital marketing strategy, especially retargeting and stuff like that, of just to get that next bump, alongside further new product development, looking at different channels of, we started a wholesale channel, actually selling in our products to other retailers and that side of things. So there was that second spurge of growth that we couldn't have got without the reputation with the first spurge.
Absolutely.
And that, you know, that attracted a few people from that side. And actually it was one of our old sales directors, and he then became CEO of Create Better Group, which I'll come on to. But Gary Quinn, he phoned me up one day and he said, "What have you ever thought about merging with the cake decorating company, who was our biggest competitor at the time?" And I was like, no. And then
we're better than them.
It was that kind of thing. It was like we were fierce competitors. You know, it's that kind of way. When you're exhibitions, you weren't speaking to each other. Daft in the world of cakes, right? And then about an hour later on the phone conversation, I thought, actually, this makes sense. So I drove straight up to...
See, before you finish the story, right, so you were talking about e-commerce and growth and all that. Now, we've got a mutual friend, right? Craig. Craig Alexander, right? Know your numbers.
Yes.
How bloody important is it to know your numbers?
100%.
It's amazing how you learn that shit before you don't realise it. You become a business owner, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need to know this
You're
stuff.
right. And I think that was the element that... If I had known that sooner within the business, I would have a lot more focus on it on that side.
Absolutely, 100%.
And it was only after sort of really getting into the paid digital marketing side, that's when you're starting to really put focus on cost per acquisition and everything else, and you start to I've really got in there with the numbers of understanding margins, the products we're putting out, the pricing that were there, and actually the own brand stuff and the bit from that side. But especially when we got to the point and we got an offer,
Right,
basically,
okay,
for the
okay.
business.
So you're thinking to yourself, so got a phone call, no chance.
Yeah.
Within an hour, you're going, actually, this might be all right.
Exactly.
What happened next?
And well, basically, we went for a meeting with our competitors, and I remember after that first meeting, the first thing we thought was, we've actually got more in common than we don't.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a wee feeling of regret. Was I wish we spoke a long time ago, because there could have been stuff that we've done together on that side. But anyway, from the merger side of things and what happened, it actually turned into an acquisition offer. And it was at that point, knowing where, understanding the business, knowing the numbers of where we sit and being confident from that side, we started negotiations of, well, actually now feels like the right time. And it was a very healthy offer of, let's look at this. Let's look at Exton, and we know what the future is, left in good hands as well. And there was another side as well. Was my mum was she had been ill at the time as well. She had some health issues, and we thought, well, this is a nice time to make sure that there's sort of a retirement play in set as well. So I then took it on myself of negotiating the full deals and then thinking, right,
and this will get us to the next question of liking this.
Yes. So I thought, right, that's fine. It's going to take, we'll take 3 months. So okay, it's 3 months now. It'll take 6 months, right? And before you knew it, it was 8-10 months down the road. And I remember there was part of the deal was I was going to be going to work and running the business unit after the deal was complete. Which turned into something else after as well. And, things get heated during negotiations, especially when you're passionate about the business that you've got and you're challenging criticism that might be coming against it from that side as well. And I kind of had a panic moment one night and thought, well, there was two things. Because of how heated negotiations were getting, I was thinking, they're not going to want to work with me after this is done. They're going to hate me. But also the main bit was, because they were a competitor, I just thought, has this all been a big distraction technique to get us, distracted from looking at the business?
Which is understandable.
It is understandable, and it happened. Seeing
this
now.
is what you do as a living, and I'm going to get to the points in a minute.
And so I kind of, there was a bit of humility with it in me. I had to have the acceptance was, I'm burnt out by just focusing on this, and I've taken the focus off the business side of things as well. I'm going to need some help. I knew at that point, I was like, we're going to need someone. And I was up for dinner with at my in-laws one night, and my father-in-law said, why don't you speak to Raymond Blinn? And I'd known Raymond before, but I didn't really know what he did. I knew he was involved in business. I knew he was an ex-accountant and stuff. So anyway, next day, Raymond came in and we were in the meeting room, and we explained the situation. And the whole family just knew immediately, like, this is our guy. Like, we want you. And it was the stuff it was a question, the stuff he was picking up from that first look, from that first conversation. We were like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And even understanding the legal team we had in place, the accounts we had in place, they weren't fit for purpose of what we really needed for a good support team.
But you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
It's not until you bring in an expert and you're like,
100%.
Okay,
100%. Right. And I think that side of it, I'd only ever dealt with one business broker. I'd only heard about one business broker before, and I think everyone knows them. Is you get that letter in, and they say, "We found a buyer for your business. We want to do a free valuation." And I remember this was a good few months before we'd been made the other offer. My mum saying, "You should phone them up and have a conversation." And I remember we phoned them up, and they said, without asking many questions or seeing the accounts, they were like, yeah, for £40,000 we can put your business on the market.
We no guarantee of sale. Okay,
exactly, right? I know, it's like, and especially remember Dad's reaction. It was like, no. And then they went instantly, okay, we'll do it for 20 grand. Click. And I was like, if that's the level of trust that we can have from the first, how can we trust you through the process and act in our best favour?
Because you just basically sounded like you're trying to rip me off now.
Exactly. So I think from that understanding of what that role was, I'd already had that in my head of who can I turn to in terms of advice and help us along this process. But I mean, Raymond was chalk and cheese to that experience.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it was let's get in here, let's get this done.
Yep. Put a plan in place.
And he took it all over. I mean, he was the ringmaster. Yep. That's the way I like to call him at the time. He dealt with that side of things. We got back to running the business, and the last quarter before we sold, we had our best quarter in the company's history, and we wouldn't have been able to do that if we were focused on this deal.
If you were still fully focused
exactly.
on the acquisition.
And it was, you know, it was a breath of fresh air to get him in, and that, you know, Raymond,
was it almost like I'm going to show yous? Because of because you don't like people talking about your business, right?
Yeah, kind of. I think there was a bit of that, and I mean, especially when some of the due diligence question or the response to the answer given on that side, I kind of wanted to turn around to them and go, well, what's yours? What's yours like? What's your plan? You know, and see, because they wouldn't have had the same. They would have had the same answer. You know, it's very easy when you're on one side of the table and not the other. But you know, that was my first introduction of business partnership. And since then, so after the deal was done, you know, was running the e-commerce side of things with Dr. Oetker, who was the ultimate parent company.
Wow, was that the big parent?
Yeah, so they were the top parent company, and they had Create Better Group in the UK.
Are they German?
German company. Yeah. I mean, they're the most famous for the Ristorante pizzas. That's how
they make everything. They've got cake mixes. Everything.
I mean, huge company. I mean, an incredible company to work for. Still family business as well from that side. And I was running it was 6 or 7 of the e-commerce sites in the UK from that side, and but it's still at that point keeping in touch with Raymond and business partnership, and there was other opportunities that were sort of coming up from that side. But about a year later, there was one particular point that came in life, and you know, my mum passed away, and I was, for so long, I'd been hammering in the business, knowing what I knew, knowing from e-commerce side, and that was sort of a critical point where I took time to reflect, and there was just something about it that I thought, this isn't for me anymore.
It's amazing how that happens. I know, isn't it? I know. When you know, it's almost like an epiphany, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's mental.
And I don't know. There's an emotional legacy aspect of still with cake stuff, so I felt like almost there was maybe a guardianship of even going forward from that side. But I'd seen how quickly the family had moved on from that's not our baby anymore, which I think was a surprise to all of us. But also at the same time, you know, I was doing a lot of traveling for the job, and I thought that point of reflection was, life's too short. I want to get back home. I want to be around family. I want to, you know, make sure that I can go to my own bed every night, and from that side of things. And so I came back to Glasgow, and I got involved in a few other projects. I was with Chisholm Hunter for a bit as head of marketing in their e-commerce team, and that was a great experience as well from that side. But I still knew in my gut that there was something more I wanted to do. There was that way of,
especially when you go from being a business owner to an employee. It's a hard pill.
It is,
because you don't get to make those decisions that you know are going to drive the business forward.
Exactly, but at the same time, you know, it would have been easier to say, I'm going to go and start something from that side. I needed to be passionate about it.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got to have that gut feeling that I understand this vision. I want to be on this, and I want to build. I love building things. That's something I've realised in the last year. I love building things, and you know, it's something that I can get behind and build. And there was one day, Raymond and I had been keeping in touch and stuff like that. And there was one particular project that we were talking about. But anyway, he phoned me up. It was one Monday night, and he said, "Look, I'm thinking about acquiring business partnership with some of the existing partners. Do you fancy coming on board?" And I jumped at it. I
just instantly knew this is it.
Instantly knew. And I thought, if I almost, this sounds the wrong way, but this is the only way I can put it. I felt that if I can be the person that Raymond showed to be with support, and had an understanding of how to do that side, I had kind of a duty to go and try that out and do that, you know. And He explained, that was when he started to explain what the industry was like, you know, the how Wild West was, cutthroat, and you know,
we've had this conversation.
exactly, and how Wild West was, and you know, explained to him about the letter and the phone call I had before, and he knew who they were. You know, it was that kind of way, because everyone knows who they are, until you understand the
we've had
industry.
that conversation as well.
Exactly, and I was like, and his vision for sort of taking the business partnership to its new era was all about education, you know, all about getting that out to business owners there, that there is many avenues. There's people there that will give you realistic valuation, realistic advice, pragmatic approach. You know, we're not there to dangle a carrot in front of you
without paying 40 grand up front.
Exactly, exactly. It should be based on success.
Absolutely, because then you're sharing the risk.
Exactly.
Isn't it? And we're going to get into that in a minute as well.
Yeah, that's fine. But that's where we got to on that side was as soon as sort of I understood the vision, and I was like, I already have felt that passion in my stomach building. I was like, I see where this is going. Let's go and do it.
Yeah. You know? Right. So you now realise that, wow, what I've learned through the acquisition of my own business and the pains that I've felt and how Raymond took that pressure away from me, I could help other people do exactly the same. That was the kind of trigger.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what's the biggest mistakes that business owners make when they come to you initially to sell their business? What's the things that they've probably not thought about or looked at? So what would be the top 3 or 4 things that you think your business isn't worth as much because, or what's the things that you normally jump? It's quite easy to see and jump out for you. So you do that.
It really starts with, you know, everyone thinks that it sort of starts with the financials and from that side of what we look at, but it's actually more of an understanding of the reasoning behind them and why they're deciding to do it now and everything from that side. And obviously multiple reasons. It can go all the way from health just to retirement. But when you've understood sort of where they sit in their involvement and their role in their day-to-day and, you know, what the type of service they offer, to who they offer it, that's the key bits of information that people don't realise is actually the crux of what makes the business. You know, it's if you're an owner-led business and it's only you hands-on day-to-day and not built a management team around you,
it's not worth a lot of money.
It's not worth a lot of money.
Because it's you.
Exactly. If you've got
by the way, I set my business up right from day one to sell the business. Like it was
when you see the structure you've got, I know.
It was always set up with in my mind. Not that I'm going to, but if I ever had to, it can't be about James Fleming. Like it can't be about James.
There's a great book, I tell a lot of people to read this, called Built to Sell by John Warrillow. John's got a company called Value Builder as well that we're
it's American, isn't it?
Canadian.
Canadian, yeah.
And but the book's brilliant because I think it gives people an indication of actually, you know, build the business to be the business, not you. And you know, there's still a hybrid approach. There's still a reputation. People want a person behind it, but it still needs to be that.
I'm the big face of the business.
Exactly. But
people know they're not getting me.
Exactly.
They need to know by the way, you're not getting.
But where were we? And so
the challenges.
The challenges, and the other side specifically is the revenue concentration on clients. So if you've got a customer that's making up 90% of your revenue,
danger.
I mean, it's a huge red flag. And people,
today's pull it and you're done.
Exactly. And you see that a lot in like the construction industry and whatnot. It's especially with
one client can put them under instantly.
100%. And you've seen that over the last few years with some of the big builders going out.
I actually did a post about this, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, in the UK, or maybe it was a talk I was doing. It was a talk I was doing. In the UK, over 4,000 businesses in the last 12 months, construction only, went under.
Really?
4,000 in the last 12 months. Incredible. Well, that was a few months ago, but I know.
It's shocking.
Especially when we're in this huge build.
I know. But I think it shows you how fragile it can be when, when you're in it, you know, it's business that's there, but it's not only volatile for when someone's looking to exit and why it won't be attractive. It's volatile day to day if those pillars crumble for you, that you've got no business there. And so I think, those are the sort of key, before you even get to the sort of financials and look what's looked at and what's untapped.
Basically, multiple streams of income.
It's diversification, making sure it's spread out. Making
so if one
sure
goes away, you'll still survive because this other thing's,
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, again, a lot of it comes back to people. They've just ran the business. They've just been busy with it. They've not taken that time to look at it, and that happens
for most businesses. That's exactly the model.
But there should be a point where take a day for yourself, one day in the full year, one day. Just take a day for yourself and reflect on the business. Speak to someone that you trust from that side.
Or read
the book, and get that fresh perspective on if I was looking to exit, if someone else was coming about it, how can I make it attractive? And it starts to get your gears going on, right, what can I put in place to make sure that my remit doesn't cover this? Who can I bring in to help that? Who can I train up to help me with this side of things as well? And in fact, I think it is a West of Scotland thing, to be quite honest, that there's not a lot of business owners that are humble enough to be able to have that conversation, have an open conversation with her. And what I've learned in the past, especially from sort of speaking to the competitors and regretting I didn't speak to them before, is speak to people in the industry, even if create those relationships, and you can bat off each other. If you think it's quiet, it might not just be you it's quiet, it might be the rest of the industry that's quiet, and being able to have that chamber around you to do it. And it's just sometimes that approach and that circle around you that won't make you feel on your own, but most importantly, it just gives you a sense of a fresh perspective from other people that will understand your business differently to what you understand it. And you need that way before you're thinking about exiting the business, because you need that understanding of when you get to that point, you can't go into it with regrets of knowing what could I have done differently to get to the point of where
the valuation of your business could be astronomically shit.
Yes.
Just because you've no thought about all these wee things versus waiting 6 or 7 months, putting them all in place, going to market, and all of a sudden you're like, well, this is really attractive.
Exactly. I mean, and to be honest, we do that a lot. We go to businesses and we discuss it with them, and when we show that we're talking about the growth potential and where they are and what that side is, we'll tell them, you're not ready to sell yet, and if they're, especially if they've got an expectation in their head, we'll tell them outright, it's not
critical,
worth it.
Isn't it?
Yeah, but
because people can throw numbers of it.
Exactly, and that's the thing. People, especially some of the cowboys in the industry, as soon as they hear that number, they'll go, aye, it's worth that. Just sign up. Here's my invoice. And we're very much the opposite approach. Exactly. And it's that kind of way that will help and say, look, go and have a look at these areas. We'll have a chat again in 12 months' time and see where we are from there. And we've got other, again, as I said, we work with value builders to provide a more hands-on approach to help them through that process if they need it from that side as well. But it's understanding that the bit that always the bit that I worry about, because I see it so much with health issues and sudden health issues or sudden sudden,
when they need to sell, basically
when they need to sell and Sunday, and that way of a legacy. They could be very, very, very good businesses, that have been running for decades, that have done very well, but that's still that key man approach of everything relies on that sole person. And suddenly something with a health issue, and health comes first, family comes first, but suddenly that legacy just disappears because of that. That's a horror story, and it makes you feel when you hear them, and you
must be thinking, I would love to really help you, but this is a hard slog to turn this around. Okay, so what's the things what do you love most about what you do? What is it you're like, I love it because what? Because you're passionate about. I mean, obviously we met. It was 6-7 months ago. When we first met, we sat having a coffee, and I always say, right, you can tell when somebody's passionate because the way that they talk about their business, right? So you've got that.
You can tell you're passionate.
Absolutely. I'm very passionate about what I do. So tell me, what is that? What's the thing that really floats your boat with what you do?
I think, honestly, it comes back to sort of that build factor, and not build from we want to see our company do X amount in revenue, anything like that. It's the build from, we're not just building the business partnership as a company, but we're trying to actually build within the industry to change the industry. We are probably one of the only brokers in the UK that are pushing for regulation of our market, because our business brokers are unregulated.
Wow.
And that's, I just find that incredible.
Sometimes that's people's whole, it's everything.
Exactly. And it's
like the mortgage market being unregulated.
Can you imagine? I mean, you think about it that way. Yeah, I know.
Absolutely. Your biggest asset, if you're a business owner, is your business or your home.
And you think about everything that's connected so closely around us, with the lawyers we work with, with the accountants we work with the lenders, with the, you know, and you think, well, why is that piece in the middle not? And, you know, we've done a lot of work in sort of looking at how that might work, you know, looking at models from around the world to see. In South Africa, they've got it regulated down there. It's actually quite a good model, and the South African legal system is actually very close to the. So there's elements like that we're trying to look at. But of course, there's many cowboys in the market that don't want it unregulated because they can do what they want from that side.
Because they make their money charging the high upfront fees.
Exactly.
By the way, here's a question for you, right? And I'm going off track again, but I have to ask this question. There is this statistics out there about most businesses that are put up for sale don't sell. What are the statistics? What's the kind of? I heard 80%.
Yeah, so the market average is 1 in 5 businesses that go to a market sell.
Yeah,
right.
And what's the main reason they don't sell?
It's because they don't have a team, a broker team in there that understands the business.
Yeah.
And with that, I mean, to be able to get the full understanding at the offset, get your sort of bank of questions in your head and your team's head of when you're speaking to buyers, you're the ones answering the questions, right? And what that does is that keeps deal momentum going. You know, that avoids us having to go back to owners and go, right, we've got this and that. Don't get me wrong, there's always elements of that, but if you've got the majority of it, if you've got the understanding of the business, you're speaking on behalf of the business.
But that was kind of how you described it to me when we first met, was when we partner with a company to look at I don't want the financial parts, like, we'll get to that. Who are you?
Yeah.
What are yous about? What's that vision look like? And I was really impressed when we were playing. I'm like, I've never actually thought about that stuff before.
The way I kind of put it is, as well as, you wouldn't use a criminal defence lawyer to deal with a property transaction, right? So why should you use a broker that doesn't understand anything about your industry or your businesses? And that's what the firm that we've got, in terms of partners we've got, we're all from different industry backgrounds. We've all been through different challenges, and we're regionally throughout the UK, so we've got that hands-on approach. But the same way goes if, like, say there's a e-commerce company that comes up in London, we've got a local partner, we've got a few local partners down there that would go and see them in person, but I would fly down and see them because that's my background. So the same way goes, you know, if we've got some engineering firms, some print firms up here, the same way, and having that understanding the lingo even, right? It breaks down that alone of, I've understood what you're trying to do. I know your competitors. I know what the trade buyers that are there, and being able to comparing that to the people that have come from no commercial background. You know, I've seen some where the CVs have been McDonald's before they've come into this game. You know, and it's like, how can you think you can put your trust as a successful business owner yourself with a great company that you've built here? How can you put your trust in someone that doesn't understand it? You know, and that is, I feel like that is the main crux of what the issue is in the industry. Is it's cloak and dagger of the people representing these businesses that are up for sale.
They're not even ready to be sold.
No. So they're there to make that upfront fee, and that's it.
So it's basically broken promises. You're basically, without saying you're lying. In fact, you're lying to your customer about, first of all, what the business is worth when you don't know anything about them, right? And then the no understanding the industry, and I think is that what we're saying?
And the time scale as well. The time scale is very important, because we see that we get asked that a lot, especially when it's health circumstances or there's a key milestone or something from that. Like a great example this year was in April. The business asset disposal relief changed from 10% to 14%. Changes again next April to 18%. Which is mad. I know. Which is another. We could talk an hour about that.
That's another podcast.
Exactly. But we had potential clients come to us in January, February, March, and they're saying to us, we know the BADR goes up in April. So can we get the business sold by then? And, you know, we're saying to them, with the best will in the world, you
absolutely
know,
no chance.
No chance. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we have done fast transactions. You know, we've done them within 3 months, but we're not going to sit here and say, if you sign up with us, we'll get it sold before April, because that's wrong. And it's unrealistic. Exactly. Yeah. But then our competitors come to them. I hate using competitors because I don't class us in the same league.
Yeah.
But they will go to them and say, aye, we'll get you sold before April. Here's our sign up fee to sign up. Those businesses are still in the market just now. You know, and like, how have they got away with it? That's misadvice. That's criminal, and it's unethical.
Agree.
You know,
I agree.
And
in fact, we had that conversation about some of the things that they say to you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all sales tactics, and some of them have got a really good sales team at the start, and they've got a really good legal team for when you leave them. They'll tie you to, or if you use another broker, we'll still do a fee, and they've got nothing in between.
Yeah.
You know, it is that, and so, you know, the only way we can see there's two ways we can see. We really want to push for regulation, because even though it's going to be more admin for us, and from that side, we're the best set up for it. To
it's then apples against apples.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, and there's good actors out there that we speak to and collaborate with. They might have certain industry experience that we don't. So, you know, if a client comes to us from that industry, we are actually like,
let's go and find an expert.
You go and speak to them, because actually I think they're better fit that way. And that's the right way to do it. That's the right advice for a client. But the only way, in my gut, I feel that regulation is only going to come about when one big bad news story hits the press, and it actually gets the public exposure that can pressure on the politicians to actually look at it from that side.
And most people don't want to talk about it.
Exactly.
It's almost like one of the...
It's such a personal thing as well. So a lot of
I don't want to tell him that I made a mess of this.
Exactly. From being in the industry, we hear all the horror stories. We see what people have been through from that side. But as business owners, especially at the point where you're looking to sell, because there's an element of discretion for competitive advantage, for customer relationships, that you don't hear the horror stories all the time in the press and out there. So
absolutely.
It's so hard to push that until something big does happen. But also at the same time, we thought, right, if we can't push for that, what's the next biggest thing that we can do to try and change this? And in this industry for so long, it's been so smoke and mirrors in terms of how a deal is done, until how stuff is brought to market, what brokers' roles actually are, and everything from that side. And the reason for that is so they can try and justify their large upfront fees of what's actually getting done there. So we thought, well, let's break that down. Let's get a really good knowledge hub. Let's put a huge investment into a knowledge hub and SEO. So we've got an education platform for, even if the clients aren't eventually coming to us, business owners have a source of truth that they can turn to. That this things like, this is how you should value your business. So that when the cowboy comes along and
know
says,
exactly what's...
You can ask them to justify, how did you get to that valuation, rather than just taking their word. But also the transparency aspect. There's a lot of times that, you know, we convert clients from, they've been with some of the bad actors, you know, and ask them, so who were the type of inquirers that they spoke to? Oh, I don't know, they never told us, didn't get kept in the loop or anything from that side. I've not heard from them in 3 months, you know. I'm like, what? So we're, you know, it's about our client relationships, but also the systems we're developing. So next week, actually, we're launching our client portal, and it's the transparency is the key of it. All our clients can log in, see all the inquirers we're speaking to, all the notes we have against them, and it's just, and 24/7.
Which stage they're at, non-disclosures,
exactly. So they can
asking
see
for additional information.
What is going on with it. You know, the same way if you had someone in your team doing a role for you, expecting a job, you would ask them to come in and be accountable to you every week. So why shouldn't we have that as standard in our industry? So I'm really proud of what we've built on that side, because
that's exciting stuff.
I do think we are the only brokers in the UK that will have that. I might be wrong, but I do think we are. And, you know, that is the push that we want to have, is we're the brokers that you can trust. And it sounds like such, the bit I catch myself is, it sounds like such a hard sales pitch when you're doing that. But it's actually just the reality of it is, I know the support that I got from when I sold my business. And I want to be able to be that person because our reputation is key.
Absolutely.
And even who we work with and the strategic partners that we recommend and stuff, we're very close knit about that. We've vetted them to the nth degree to make sure they've got the same ethical understanding as us, because we don't want anything done bad by our clients.
And that's whether it's accountants or legal or
100%, 100%. Everyone there, and but that has formed really good strategic, constructive partnerships that we've been able to add value into our clients. I'll give a very quick example of one recently that we completed. Was I was in the construction industry, and it was a very successful company, and they'd turned over, I think it was around £2.5 million by the time they were ready to sell, and the owner came to us, and he'd been diagnosed with cancer, and it was critical. It was a horrible situation.
I need to sell up.
Exactly. And but it was very much he was the business. There was an element of that. He had a team in place, but there was a lot to do with supplier relations and client relations and stuff that all stemmed from him. And our first advice was, the most important thing that you can do just now is go and spend time with your family. So what we then did was roll our sleeves up, work with the strategic partners we've got interim management in place, understood the business, kept the business where it was, if not actually doing some things to help grow it a wee bit in some of the projects that had been
basically putting all the ducks in a row.
All the ducks in a row.
So that when it's on the market.
So that didn't have to turn into a fire sale.
Yes.
And we managed to sell that business within 3 months because there was a time element. We had to get it done quick. And
but you had all the boxes ticked.
Yep. And we found a great new home for it. And although it's a very unfortunate circumstance, and I really felt for the family were overjoyed. We just managed to get them sorted on that side, and see it go to a good new home as well. And we want to understand it's case by case basis on what clients are trying to achieve. But if we can help anyway with ourselves or our strategic partners, and we bring in the advice, and you can trust us from that way, we will get our sleeves rolled up to make sure that we do that for you.
You said something to me when we first met as well about you just don't take on anybody.
No.
You're very strategic. You're like, I probably can't help you.
Yeah.
So we're probably not the right company. That's quite commendable as well.
Yeah, it's not gone down well. Some of the people that have said no to. How we see it is, well, there's a few reasons with some people that I've mentioned that if we think there's someone with better experience, we go to them in that side. And but
or unrealistic expectations, maybe if they come to
unrealistic expectations, and we can't justify why, because sometimes they just think that we're just trying to sell it for cheaper, where we're just being realistic.
Yeah. Well, that's not how it works, because you're sharing the risk.
Exactly. But also, and this, it sounds a bit daft, but actually there's sometimes we say no because we don't like the person.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, if I can't trust them, it's called business partnership for a reason. We're going in partnership here.
Yeah.
And there needs to be trust both ways. And if any of us feel that there's maybe information that's been withheld, or there's something that is going to come out or anything like that, I'm like, well, if you can't be honest with us about things, then we're not going to work with each other. And there's been big opportunities from that side as well. But even from the initial conversations of the advice that we've offered up, and we usually we give a lot of advice before we even sign them up as a client. We do a lot from that side. Sometimes it's just
which is
like,
unusual again, because most people want their money before they even really have a conversation.
Exactly, and that's the thing is, you kind of get a feel, and with a lot of these things in this business itself, you sometimes just got to go with your gut.
Absolutely.
And the one thing I don't want to have, and a lot of the partners share the same way, is when you've got an opportunity there that just doesn't feel and sit right, that might cause more of disruption, not just for you, but for your other clients as well. That you should say no to that.
Yeah. Okay, we're right at the end of the podcast. Ask all my clients your top 3 pieces of advice in business, whether it's selling a business or just in general in business. What's your top 3 pieces of advice?
The first thing is, don't burn yourself out. Seek support before you get to that stage, and thinking that you can do everything yourself from that aspect, whether it's, get to the point where I got, selling a business, or actually just reaching out for some support of who should I bring in place to be able to help on that side as well. You know, it's important to, you know, make sure you spend the time, sort of do a wee bit of research and see, or go and speak to someone, you know, get us out and have a chat about what's the support I need. Even if I'm not ready to sell just now, you know, we'll tell you that side, and make sure that you can build up a good support team around you, because as I say, health comes first. Yeah. And if you're getting burnt out and you're the only person running the business, and from that side, that's when everything collapses. So you got a kind of sense of humility to make sure that you can admit to yourself as, I'm getting to the end of my tether here just now. As our pal Craig says as well, I'll say, know your numbers.
Know your numbers.
And with that, singularly, know your number as well.
Know your number.
Exactly.
Know your numbers and number.
Exactly. Because when we get down to actually, you know, into the detail, after we understand the reasoning why and, you know, the team in place and the operation overall, is we're going to have to do a big deep dive into your numbers and understand all the different channels and all the different aspects that's been looked at, and all the different breakdown of all the categories that you've spent on your expenses, to understand what can be added back, what can be looked into, what is going to be an ongoing cost, everything from that side. And the quicker that you are set up from understanding your business from that perspective, which you should know way before you're thinking about exiting.
But unfortunately, most businesses
don't. It's the last thing to look at, and, you know, unfortunately, it's the year end, and maybe their accountant that's not so proactive. It doesn't fill them in with the advice they maybe need to look at that side of things. But the other side is know your number, because even if we come out and say to you that you're not at that stage yet, you at least know, right, I know what I want in my head. This is what we're going to have to do to get to that stage.
Point. That's brilliant.
And I think the only bit of making sure that you don't have regret within that is knowing what that number is you're going to be happy with from that side.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anything else after that is a bonus. You know.
Superb.
So, and the last piece of advice. I don't know. We've covered so much on that side. I think. If people are pandering, if it sounds too good to be true,
it probably is.
It probably is. And I know that's an old cliche, but especially in our game, is the amount of people we see taken away by a carrot being dangled in front of them. And we've sold businesses like yours for $3.5 million. Exactly. And I get that.
Without even
when I see people sign up say they're with, I get that gut wrenching feeling. I'm like, oh no. And so, you know, don't take the first answer. You know, if it sounds like, go and do a wee bit of education, ask around, you know, especially, you know, talk to who you see as closest advisors. It doesn't need to be people in the professional game, such as your lawyer or your accountant from that side as well. But people don't realise that there's other people that might be closer, that, you know, like marketing agencies. You're probably talking to a marketing agency every week. You've built that rapport with that trust. Go and have it, and just, it's that fresh approach, that fresh eye approach of, they might say, well, have a think about it this way, or do you really think it's worth that and that? I know I digress here, but
just ask, basically. Go out there and don't be frightened to ask people for help and support.
The hardest bit of saying that is it's very understandable that it's a very personal decision that you're now thinking about on that side, and you want to keep it to yourself, and it's a huge, but that's the thing, because it's so huge, you need to make sure that you've got the right advice, not just the first person that's come along. And I think with that, and obviously what we're pushing for the education side of that, is there should be more, you know, we've got all these tools at our disposal now, you know, ChatGPT, AI and everything else from that side. There's no excuse not to let people get indication of how to value my business, being able to do the due diligence on what you're being told. But unfortunately, some people just get swept up by that big shiny number.
Big carrot.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, make sure that anyone that you're speaking to, you've done that due diligence. You've found out what their experience is. You've found out what they've said to you. You've asked them to justify it. Don't be afraid to
ask for second opinions. Absolutely. Okay, right at the very end, that's us all done. If MD's thinking, I need to speak to this guy, how do they get her? By the way, all your details will be in the podcast as well, but how do they get in contact with you?
Best place to go is business-partnership.com. You'll see all our services, all our case studies of our success stories up there, all our offices as well. We're throughout the UK, so you'll be able to put in your postcode and find out who your local partner is as well. But also just connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for Cameron Young, and I'll be amongst the golfer. I'm not the American golfer, you know, it'll be the second result, but feel free to reach out for a chat anytime.
Brilliant. Listen, Cameron, I knew this would be a great podcast, and it certainly was. Thank you so much. Before we go, here is, I don't know if you've had a copy of this yet.
I have not.
Well, there you go.
Thank you very much, sir.
If you can have success or excuses, you cannot have both.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that.
And that's a wrap.